Thanks for watching On Call for All Kids. Today we're talking about returning to socialization as pandemic restrictions ease. We'll be discussing common feelings kids and families are currently experiencing, tips for expanding our social interactions, and warning signs of social anxiety disorder and how to help your child. I'm joined by Dr. Jennifer Katzenstein. She's the co director for the Center for Behavioral Health here at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital. Happy to see you, Dr. K. How are you?
I'm doing well, Ashley. Always great to see you, and so important to talk about this topic right now.
Really great topic. We know the
Mhm.
pandemic is ongoing, but things are changing a little bit. People are getting vaccinated, and in some cases, we're not having to wear masks anymore. So it's a little bit of a different feeling. What are some families and kids experiencing right now?
Yeah, I think it's can go either way. It can bring more anxiety or less anxiety. And for me personally, it makes me a little nervous. I was in a store and people weren't wearing masks, and it took me aback for a second. And even I've gotten to the point where I'm watching movies or TV and wondering why the people on the shows aren't wearing masks, right? So this is going to be a big transition for all of us. For some, certainly those with social anxiety, being in lockdown or quarantine has been beneficial for their mental health in a lot of ways because they haven't been put in situations where that anxiety really rises. And so that may be a big transition for some. For others, this easing of restrictions may come with some transition time, thinking about how we want to approach our social interactions with others and maybe take it slow. And yet again, it's another transition with still some uncertainty. So, definitely more opportunities to see both anxiety and stress increase. And then for others, anxiety or stress maybe decrease too.
What are some tips for initiating these social interactions again?
Yeah, it's been a major transition, right? We've gone without seeing so many people for so long or really limiting the pod or the bubble that we've been with. So I'd really encourage families to first ease into it. We don't have to just jump right back into it all right away and really work to find those social contacts who reinforce you and who are positive. Maybe they've taken similar quarantine or isolation measures as your family has. Maybe you know that they still have a smaller bubble and so that feels more comfortable too, knowing that they still have fewer contacts. But then as we start to prepare our kids, really starting to use those coping strategies, taking some deep breaths, doing some visualization about what it's going to look like, preparing our kids for what that's going to mean in terms of maybe being on a playground or being at a park with another kid, or even going over to someone else's house and what that's going to look like and how we can ease back into that setting. So, as we're doing that, we really want to take small steps. We don't want to avoid those social interactions. We do kind of have to get back to them, right? Because we're such social beings. But we can work back in with activities and interactions that are going to be really positive and reinforcing.
Well, what do we do if we're noticing that our child is maybe not really wanting to socially interact anymore?
Yeah, this has been a big transition, right? And that's totally understandable. But let's really start by hearing our children out. What's making them nervous? Is it that they don't enjoy the activity or the individual, or that they're anxious or nervous, or something else entirely? It's really a good moment to ask that question, why don't you want to do this? Or what's making you not want to do this? And then sitting in that silence and waiting. So if we can try to get to the root of the difficulty first, then we can focus on, again, providing those coping skills, working back in slowly, and checking in after the event to see what went well or what didn't go well so we can change things for the next time.
And how about some advice for families if we've noticed that our child has just become, as many of us have, very attached to their devices, but we really need to get them interacting socially and get them outdoors again?
My message has really changed, isn't it? Because as we started the pandemic, I'm saying it's okay to have a little bit more screen time. And certainly as parents, if we're balancing things at home, working remotely, school virtually, as well as keeping our kids occupied, certainly maybe we've used those new devices in new ways and for new social interactions. So, again, to start really understanding your child's screen time, what they're getting out of it, what appeals to them, and if there's any social component to what they're engaging in. Then work together to find what's really reasonable to expect each day. We can't go from a lot of screen time to no screen time overnight. So we want to lessen that screen time day over day, week over week, and then really wean off of the devices to get back to that no more than hour or two of device time per day. So let's offer some guidance and suggestions, some great alternative options, and make sure that what we're trying to get them to do socially or outdoors is really appealing, right? Because if it doesn't sound as fun as what they're doing on their device, it's going to be really hard to make that argument. So, as you often hear me say, a big component of this is going to be modeling the behavior too. So, us as parents putting our devices down, which for me is going to be hard too, and then really lessening that screen time, getting outdoors, getting back to those social interactions.
And lastly, what is social anxiety disorder and how do we know if our child might have it?
Yeah, social anxiety disorder is really characterized by persistent, intense fear or anxiety about specific social situations because they believe they might be judged, embarrassed, or humiliated in some way. They're avoiding anxiety producing social situations or enduring through them with lots of intense fear or anxiety. And that excessive anxiety is really out of proportion with the situation, and it interferes with daily living and ability to really engage in those typical things we should be doing day to day. So, if you're finding yourself or your child or someone in your family experiencing symptoms to this degree and it's preventing you from engaging in daily routines and a return to normal activities, it's a great time to reach out to a physician or psychologist for additional evaluation and support, especially as we ease back in.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. K. This was really great information as the pandemic is kind of shifting and things are changing for us. We never thought we'd see this day coming, but it's here. Great to see you.
Great to see you too, Ashley. Thanks so much.
And thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget you can also visit our website. It's hopkinsallchildrens.org/newsroom. You'll find a lot of great resources for your family and other great topics in pediatric healthcare. We'll see you next week.